House of Representatives passed 2022 to 2024 medium-term expenditure framework, approved 4.89 trillion naira new borrowings, 86 recovery of 2.659 trillion naira debt by oil and gas companies. Japan's Nikkei 225 falls more than 2%. Evergrande shares surge nearly 15%. And oil falls for second day as supply-driven rally peters out. Details of this and more on Business Express, and we are reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Good to have you join us on the business side of life, and we'll start by telling you that the Senate has passed the Petroleum Industry Act Amendment Bill for second reading as it acknowledged the speed with which the executive commenced the implementation of the new law. The executive bill seeks to ensure federal character principle and to strengthen the administrative machinery of the new oil sector administration, expand membership of the board of the two regulatory institutions, and exclude the Minister of Petroleum Resources and that of Finance from membership of the Upstream Regulatory Commission and the Nigerian Mainstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority to replace executive directors of the institutions with directors. Well, the House of Representatives has also passed the 2022 and 2024 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper as presented by the President. The passage followed consideration and adoption of the report by the House Committee on Finance at the plenary on Tuesday.
Many agencies of the government demonstrate capacity to stand on their own without depending on federal government budget, thereby depleting the optimal usage of national resources. For example, NAFDAC and Nigerian College of Aviation Technology in Zaria.
A lot of these things, shortfall in revenue, MDAs relying on operating capital and all of that by law. I think these things can be cured by legislation.
The Speaker, House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila has urged the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission to ensure equity and fairness in the planned review of revenue allocation in the country. In an interaction with management of the commission, Gbajabiamila said the National Assembly will support amendment of the RMAFC Act, adding that all stakeholders should be involved.
We must wait for the constitutional amendment that we're going through right now, because that might shed some weight. The federal government might need to shed some weight, which invariably means that the very revenue for the federal government might need to be pruned. If the federal government does not share its responsibilities, we cannot prune the allocation to federal government.
Chairman of the Commission, Elias Mbam, says the review is necessary as a lot has changed since 1992, when the last review was done.
We are not enabled to work. It may be difficult to achieve the enormous mandate of the Commission.
The challenges recorded in the administration of the Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information System, a 3-day capacity building workshop for critical stakeholders was organized in Minna, the Niger State capital. The initiative is aimed at consolidating on the feats achieved in minimizing wastage in the payment of remuneration for the nation's workforce.
Tries to really manage this human resource in a way that leakages are blocked, and then of course that would now enable you to enhance your financial revenue.
Nationwide training that has been ongoing in deepening the impact of IPPIS within MDAs under the platform. We've done the training in the 6 geopolitical zones.
It will equip us to work in order to lessen the burden based on the parent body IPPIS.
The Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NETI, has announced that as at December 2019, 77 oil and gas companies in Nigeria are indebted to the Federation to the tune of 2.659 trillion naira. The agency, at a media briefing in Abuja, said the debt arose from failure to remit petroleum profit tax, company income tax, education tax, value-added tax, withholding tax, royalty and concession on rentals. This was announced today in Abuja. Executive Secretary of NETI, Dr. Oji Ogbonnaya Oji, explained that the total liabilities of the 77 companies covered by the NETI process is contained in the agency's 2019 independent audit report of oil and gas sector.
We have tabled this before the public to look in that direction. And government should look in that direction. Let's work together to recover that money. And then we know how else we have. Once we have a system that makes it impossible for those kind of money to lie fallow, and then nobody talks about it, and then government is looking for money, and then we also say, oh, government is not doing enough. Money is important in governance.
Emphasis will be placed on the significance of utilizing effectively the reliable information and data already generated by NETI for national planning, reforms, and for supporting revenue growth from the sector.
For Nigerians in the rural areas to benefit from the dividends of democracy, the federal government drive to give financial autonomy to local government councils must be accepted and allowed to work by concerned authorities. The National President, Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, NULGE, Ambali Akim Olatunji, said this while interacting with journalists in Uyo.
The local government is the foundation of national development. Once you don't get it right at the local government level, Nigeria is doomed. You want a better Nigeria, let there be a better local government.
Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says social protection schemes can break the cycle of poverty, give real access to jobs, economic opportunities, and improve human capacity. The Vice President, during the United Nations High-Level Forum on Jobs and Social Protection, which he attended virtually, gave instance of Nigeria's response to the fallout of COVID-19, which he said was guided by the conviction that social protection schemes are crucial and can break the cycle of poverty, give real access to jobs and economic opportunities, and improve human capacity and productivity. He added that the economic sustainability plan of the federal government is aimed at restoring growth by mitigating the microeconomic shocks, tackling the health challenge, averting business closures, protecting and creating jobs, protecting the poor and also the vulnerable, while repositioning the economy for future resilience. The Vice President also restated the call for improved access to vaccines and sustained funding of gas projects. The 76th United Nations General Assembly may have come and gone, but the message is clear to world leaders by World Health Organization to guarantee equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines and other life-saving tools, ensure the world is better prepared to respond to future pandemics, and renew efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Joining me to talk on vaccine equity and economic recovery in Nigeria is a trade policy expert with Africa International Trade and Commerce Research, Anthony Bisong. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, the world over, globally, countries have their gear on the recovery process. Economic policies, monetary and fiscal policies are gaining grounds to ensure that the right policies are made to ensure this equitable distribution. And from the United Nations General Assembly meetings, the key issues that were raised in that meeting was how these countries, the rich and the poor, will get to balance resources to ensure this equity. Is that something we should worry about in Nigeria, peradventure Africa?
Yes, I think there is. Going by statistics, Nigeria has just 0.9% full vaccination, and that's really poor compared to the United States, the UK, Canada, that has over 60% vaccination rate. And then looking at Africa in general, Africa has less than 3% vaccination rate, so it's a thing to worry about. And we understand that vaccine equity has to do with seamless access to vaccine, affordable vaccine, irrespective of your developmental or economic status. But that's not really the case. What is obtainable now is what economists refer to as a vaccine nationalism, where countries acquire vaccine and want to vaccinate their citizens severally, undermining the inability of poor countries to afford the vaccine. So it's really a problem. And just like the Director General of WHO, Dr. Tedros, said that it's a catastrophic moral failure to promote vaccine nationalism. So I believe Africa, we know it's the investment destination of the world. And we understand the place of Nigeria in Africa as the most populated country. There is need for vaccination because research have shown that there is a correlation between high level of vaccination and economic growth. So for Africa to grow, for Nigeria to grow, we need to increase that proportion.
Okay, talking about this economic growth, we have the African Continental Free Trade Area coming on board. Some countries like Ghana have started export to this particular market. Would this percentage of vaccination in Africa, where we have just 15 million doses of vaccine being given to a population of like 1.3 billion, that is quite a gap. It's so minimal. How would this affect trade within Africa in this particular market that is so prospective?
Okay, we understand the potentials in the African Free Trade Area Agreement, and we know that if you don't vaccinate these people, definitely there will be resurgence of COVID-19. Right now we're battling with the third wave, which is the Delta variant, and there is need, just like the UNDP have suggested, that the countries that have high vaccination has high tendency of growing. So for Africa, I believe to a large extent, the world needs to pull in resources and make vaccines available. And going by what COVAX, we understand COVAX, that is the COVID-19 global access facility.
Which one of our own, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala,
Exactly.
is being at the forefront of it.
Understand. So vaccine equity is very important. So vaccine should be made available to Africans. We have one of the highest proportion of least developed countries in the world, in sub-Saharan Africa particularly. Countries like South Sudan, countries like Burundi and Malawi are battling to vaccinate 2 in 100. So that's quite minimal. I know it will affect trade. It will affect trade. And,
but yes, talking about affecting trade, if from what you've said, this vaccine nationalism, where the big countries, the superpowers, are holding on to this thing to say, okay, let's vaccine our own first before helping others. Though aid has been coming from other parts of the world that are well-to-do and they have the resources. But looking at it critically, if I am not vaccinated, I can't do trade with someone in America. Travel restrictions will come to play. I can't travel if I'm not vaccinated. Exactly. We had issues with Britain, though they've tried to kind of lower the restriction measures, where you say, even with your certificate of vaccination, we don't trust these vaccines you've taken. Though there is a kind of a drawdown on that. But how would this affect trade?
Okay, we understand that right now they're having a public forum. WTO is organizing a public forum, and I listened carefully to both Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Director General, and then the Director General of WHO. You know, it's very, very important. You know, trade connects people. Trade is humanity. I know trade has to do with right now with the AFCFTA, like you just talked about earlier on. It requires free movement of people, goods, and services. And for sure, you cannot trust a nation that has low rates of vaccination to embark on trade because there might be resurgence, just like I said. So it is very, very important. And that's why they're at the forefront of promoting vaccine equity. Vaccines should get to even the lowest country so that, you know, I think it can shore up our immunity and then make us resilient to any pandemic, as in maybe a resurgence of the wave or resurgence of COVID-19 in whatever form it wants to come. So I believe trade has to do with interpersonal interaction with people, humanity, and it connects people. Though the COVID has projected more of people are now working remotely and digitalized their economy and trade itself, but at the same time, it is better. Just like both of us now, I can trust you because I'm seeing you, I can talk to you, rather than, you know, what's happening and, you know, these trust issues with regards to digitalization and internet issues in Africa. So I believe
talking about possible safety.
Yes.
Well, but if you look at it, in as much as we've tried to minimize physical interactions, to get to digital platforms, to continue to trade, exchange goods and services, there is also need for more interventions, which we've seen the central bank saying, keying into this call for us to have our own indigenous vaccines in Africa. Should we go into this production? CBN has done some interventions, giving out money to some researchers in the pharmaceuticals to see what we can do. Have you had anything good coming out of that?
Yes, I believe I followed up that, and yeah, 5 proposals were approved, and about 253 million naira was disbursed in order to develop vaccines. It's a welcome development. We understand that a vibrant economy, it's characterized by a good health system, and we understand the importance of health intervention and research in health. And also with the scheme of the health sector research and development intervention scheme, of which the CBN, just like you mentioned, targeted pharmaceuticals and other medical projects, they've invested so much, I think to the tune of 85.89 billion naira in that project. I think, yes, the results might not be immediate, but yeah, going forward, I think we would get there. And if this had been done over time, I think we would have been, as in our health sector, would have been better positioned to tackle the immediate problem. So research in health, it's very, very important because, you know, no economy thrives when their workforce, it's not healthy. And with the common balance that health is wealth, it's very important we get to strengthen our workforce and make them have good access to health facilities. I think the intervention is a welcome idea, and we applaud them for that.
Okay, while we look forward to the fruits of this intervention, meanwhile, there is the issue of continuous increasing the level of growth, which we have seen in the second quarter of our GDP, where we saw a 5.1% growth in our GDP. What else do you think can be done to ensure that this recovery is faster?
Yes, I believe, yes, we are, you know, it's benchmarked on the 2020. You know, 2020, I think the economy was invariably shut down.
Yeah.
You know, we were running at negative. Our growth rate was negative. But yes, it's a welcome idea. I think to a large extent, just certain things need to be addressed. And if you check through the factors that contributed to the growth rate, I think non-oil sector is really doing well.
Yeah.
You know, there's a drop in the oil sector. Going by that, I think the non-oil sector has an average of 92.48%. You know, and that's fantastic. That's a fantastic one. And the oil sector 7.42. And I think going forward, government needs to strengthen and then build some very strong policies. First of all, we need to set up both hard and soft infrastructure for the needed foreign direct investment in the country. We need CBN needs to address the issue of multiple foreign exchange, then put up right policies to address that. and as well as to a large extent, tax harmonization. I've always said that, especially for MSMEs, they need to harmonize tax. I think when we do that, I think we'll sustain the growth.
There'll be more money into the economy, and growth will be much more visible than it is.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much, Anthony Bisong, trade expert, for sharing your thoughts with us at this particular point in time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Moving on, let's go to the commodities market and check the prices. On the capital market, stocks appreciated midweek in Nigeria, eroding losses recorded earlier in the week to see the all-share index logging 1.89% gain, closing the day at 39,592.29 points. Over 474 million equities exchanged hands in 3,547 deals, valued at 4.005 billion naira. Equity capitalization closed at 20.627 trillion naira. FBN Holdings, with a whopping 264 million shares, topped trade and was trailed by a distant Universal Insurance and Azar Mansard Insurance. While on the global scene, Japan's Nikkei 225 falls more than 2%. Evergrande shares surge nearly 15%. Bosse Rebel brings us up to speed with global stock market update.
Hello and welcome to the Global Stock Review. Global market focused attention on central banks, with the U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde, among others, speaking on broader economic implications of the coronavirus pandemic and discuss future challenges for monetary policy at the European Central Bank Forum on Central Banking. European stocks advanced Wednesday, looking to shrug off market nerves after a rate-induced sell-off in the U.S. in the previous session. Germany's DAX topped 1.09%, FTSE 0.94%, and France's CAC 40 1.19%. Asia-Pacific stocks largely fell in Wednesday trade following an overnight tumble on Wall Street, with Nasdaq plunging nearly 3% as bond yields rise. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 slipped 2.12% across 29,544.29. Mainland Chinese stocks also saw sizable losses on the day as the Shanghai Composite shared 1.83% to 3,536.29, and the Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index bucked the overall regional trend, closing 0.67% at 24,663.5. U.S. stock futures were higher Wednesday as the rapid increase in the 10-year Treasury yield eased, causing investors to buy some beaten-up tech stocks on the dip. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.62%. The S&P 500 futures gained 0.7%, and the Nasdaq 100 futures bounced back by 0.9% on Tuesday. The Nasdaq Composite posted its worst since March amid spike in bond yields. While African stocks are still struggling with the grip from the bear, as investors also focus on development from the European Central Bank Forum on Central Banking. That's the Global Market Review. I am Bosse Rebel.
On that global note, we wrap this edition of Business Express. Remember to keep in touch with us. Do send in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on NTA's channel. Business Express returns Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Be safe out there.